Boys, welcome back to the channel. Got a killer video for us. We're going to just break down exactly how my guy Brian was able to shred 22 pounds in as little as 12 weeks of time while also building some solid muscle foundation. I want to break down the entire process and how we were able to do this so you guys know exactly what to do after watching this video, and obviously that you guys could learn so much in the process. And I kind of want to just break down exactly how we were able to do this with Ryan, the steps, the frameworks, the systems we use, how it's customized specifically towards his lifestyle, and you guys could just run with it. So let's get into it. No gatekeeping, none of that stuff. I just want to give you guys and show you guys exactly how we're able to do this, because it's really life-changing stuff if you can implement and take action, and I hope you guys could do that after watching this. So as you guys can see, I always respect client privacy, but here are some of the results that we were able to get for my guy Brian. As you could see, it's a surreal transformation. At the front, of course, this is like it's insane. 3 months, little as 3 months of consistent inputs, hitting the same stuff every single day can do the transformations, and of course, the side. But it's great to always look at, like, of course, losing this weight. As you can see, Brian lost 22 pounds. But it's more about the ability to gain the skill sets and knowledge, and that's the biggest thing we touched on. So over the course of our 12-week program, we were able to, of course, not only lose all this weight and shred this fat, but we're able to build this solid muscle definition. And the biggest thing with your transformation that reflected on my journey, and of course, my guy Brian, is that you want to take progress photos. You want to see how the results, come over time. And it's the biggest part of the process, because you're not going to see changes overnight. You have to do stuff. You have to see stuff, how it works with your body, and you have to adapt and just stay consistent. And as you can see with Brian, we were able to just stay consistent. And obviously, like, it takes time. Like, nothing happens overnight. But if you keep on continually smashing the inputs, you're going to see results. I don't know why that kind of happened, but you're gonna see the results. As you can see, it's it's a really cool or surreal moment. Just looking at how it was broken down over the course of weeks. Apologies, guys, this is like very finicky, but the back, as you can see, just over time, just slowly getting the results until week 12. It's pretty surreal. And then the last part, it's always good to see the progress photos, because I think it really shows a lot about how the results were able to stack over time, but specifically like how it's doable for anyone if you have the right information to smash. So I want to give you that framework. So guys, let's get right into it. And looking on just Brian specifically, of course, his journey. We started, as you guys can see, at September 30th at 171, and we ended around January 2nd at 149.7. But the really funny thing about this is I got to show you guys, because when Brian and I initially, touched base, he was like, I want to try to get down to 160. He's been struggling at around 170. I'm like, Brian, if we hit these systems right, and if we do everything we need to do, the only variable should be your work ethic and consistency. That's it. If you apply these frameworks, you're going to see unreal results. And we got down, we started at the 171, we got down to 149. And, just the feeling Brian was able to get, definitely see a rise in your energy levels, the way he was working out, really enjoyed, specific, stuff we did that he enjoyed. Like, he's a skier. He wanted to do stuff that he enjoyed. So we customized towards his lifestyle, and he really enjoyed the process. And, just reflecting on it, Brian was, again, able to lose over 20 pounds, but this is like the biggest thing that a lot of people have to realize. It's not just the weight you lose, it's the journey and how you gain, more of the skill sets and knowledge to have a versatile skill set for the rest of your life. And it changes your life, essentially. You gain more confidence in the way you feel, everything. It makes a huge difference, and that's the biggest thing we touched on. So guys, this is just a little bit about Brian, how we were able to get the results. Now I want to break down step by step exactly how we were able to do this, and let's get right into it. So guys, as we can see right here, like, we have the entire framework. I broke this down to 3 core pillars, and then I'm going to systematically break down each pillar so you guys can get everything you need to know. So pillar 1, obviously, we have the foundational framework. So when we do stuff like this, it's it's a very systematized approach. Essentially, you're not just getting slapped on a nutrition and training plan and say run with it. It's not how we do it. If you want life-changing results in the shortest amount of time, you have to have a customized plan specifically towards you, your lifestyles, and your goals. And that's the approach we take. So what we do is we use a program periodization technique that essentially, just to go short, because I'm going in depth in this later in the video, is that you're going to have your overarching goal. So say for Brian, he wanted to lose 10 pounds. I'm like, Brian, like we could do so much more than that. So we bumped up to 15 pounds and then we actually smashed that goal and then went to 20, then 22. But the thing with, this kind of approach is that it breaks your overarching goal down to milestones, which then gives you the ability to have benchmarks to kind of work towards. And then you use daily habits as your momentum builders to get to your short-term goals. But to keep it short, if you have a 15-pound goal, that's what we originally started at, you're going to have month 1, 5 pounds, month 2, 5 pounds, month 3, 5 pounds, and then your overarching goal, of course, is 15 pounds. And that gives you frameworks or benchmarks you guys need to hit every single month so you know exactly what you're working towards. So maybe if you're 8 weeks in and you're like, where am I supposed to be? And you have no idea, waste of time. You're not having systems, you're not tracking data, you're not having, basically analysis, understand where you're at, what's working, what's not working. That's how you fail. You don't have basically benchmarks and milestones. So we do that very, precisely depending on what your goal is. So that's kind of the benchmark and milestones, how that funnels into the periodization program. And then the biggest thing is where a lot of people fail is that accountability is really hard. So essentially for yourself, because I know like everyone's human, I slack. If I don't have someone holding me accountable, I slack. Everyone slacks. And if you don't think you slack, you're just lying to yourself. You need people to hold you when you go through those tough times. You get stagnant growth, you get progress plateaus, all this different stuff where essentially it's a painful experience to say the least. And this is where the program really comes in because there's 3 forms of accountability checks that we do. So any problem you have kind of gets snipped right away, if not the next morning, depending on how bad you want it. Like I said, the only variable should be your work ethic and consistency. I can't eat the food for you. I can't train the weight for you. You have to show up and do it. But if you have the right inputs, that's how you're going to get life-changing results if you literally just stay consistent. So as you can see here, every single morning, you're going to get daily voice notes. And a voice note, for example, let me just, as you guys can see, I'm going to kind of break this down. But obviously, this is done through an app. There's no, Excel sheet, paper and pen, none of that. It's all done through an app on your software. You have your own account. But basically, like, this is what your account looks like every single day. And as you can see, if you miss something, it's really evident on my side, like you just didn't do it. And that's how I essentially hold you accountable. So my voice note, say you essentially, these are your macros for the day and you're 30 grams short, you didn't have a high protein breakfast and you missed your step count. I would give you, a daily voice note. Hey, Brian, you're really short in your protein. We need to make sure we have an extra portion of protein in. So maybe let's do another chicken breast or ground beef. Also, I really want to make sure your step count, because your step count, we were only at 6,000 steps. We need to get 10,000. So maybe what you could do is in the morning, you could take an extra 20-minute walk to kind of hit that 10K. And that's going to allow you to, maybe work out an appetite to get your high protein breakfast in. That's something you can hear right in the morning and take action right away. That's it. So that's really good to hear very handily in the mornings. And then every Wednesday, you get a client check-in form. So this check-in form basically goes over how you're going in the program. So, mentally, physically, emotionally, any small wins, anything you're struggling with, how was your workout completion, how was your nutrition completion. So everything I need to know on my end, if you feel like anything changed. So that gives me the ability to really understand that if something's not working, we need to fix it. And then every 2 weeks, we have our bi-weekly Zoom call. You see, like everything is like daily, weekly, bi-weekly. So again, on the Zoom call, it's really good to see because you get to talk, face to face and really get to understand what's happening if you're going through struggles or, you need to overcome some obstacles. That's where you can really, use that time sufficiently to get you to where you want to be. But, essentially, if we go to that Zoom call and your account is not filled out, it's pretty evident that you're just not putting the work in. And then it's always good to hear that, to say, Brian, why aren't you putting the work in? You missed 3 workouts the last week. You didn't hit your step count and your nutrition wasn't logged. So I really can't give you your macro, basically breakdown because I don't have the information. So like I said, it's accountability to the highest end, and that's how you enable great results. So that's basically, the foundational framework. The program breakdown, what we do essentially is we break this down to 3 essential keys: the nutrition, the training, the habits and goals. So again, guys, your nutrition is you basically, what happens is for your nutrition, you get a preference form that when you get onboarded, and it basically breaks down your favorite meals. Obviously, you can't have Taco Bell, McDonald's, and all this different stuff, but meals that are healthy and tailored towards your lifestyle. We do the amount of meals you want, the foods you like best, and it's essentially stuff that's sustainable and that is going to allow you to hit your goal. And then essentially what you guys do is you you access your PDF. You get a new one every single week based off on your client check-in form. That if you don't want ground beef, you want a different source of protein, we could then swap it out. And then as you guys can also see, you have your training, which is basically breaks down exactly what you need to do for your workouts, the rep ranges, the compound lifts, the isolation, your daily splits, your schedule. Everything's planned out, so it's basically impossible to miss unless you don't show up. That should be, again, the only variable. And then as you can see, really cool, what we have is daily habits that work towards your milestone and benchmark goals. So for example, if you're trying to, let's say for Brian was, again, losing 5 pounds each month, your protein intake is really important. So maybe one to have an additional habit could be Brian hitting his daily protein intake of 170 grams. That's something he's going to do every single day. That's going to lead him to be in congruence of his short-term goal, which is then, again, in the same vertical of his long-term goal. So that's why your daily habits and goals are so important for you. So that's that. We're going to go into, a lot more detail. But essentially, at the end, your program acceleration is the ability to gain these skill sets and knowledge. You're going to gain the stuff where I could essentially be out the picture and you know exactly what to do. So maybe you want to do, a cut, a lean bulk, a standard bulk, whatever it is. Later in life, you don't have to pay the time to understand the skill sets. You know exactly what to do. Everything's taken care of, and it really allows you to make sure that you're all set. And that's why it's an acceleration tactic, because again, you don't have to learn the information. It's a part of your identity at this point. So again, guys, that's kind of, the overview. As you can see, I break down each step into crucial detail and how Brian was able to do it specifically towards him and why it works so well. And then as you saw, Brian's results. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about pillar 1. So guys, pillar 1, the foundational framework. We've broken this down to 3 essential phases, which is that, again, I broke down the periodization technique. I did it for the weight, but you could also do it for the training and the nutrition as well. So it's a framework that's very versatile in different areas of the program. Again, Brian was a 90-day program alignment, and we broke down his goal to 15 pounds in 3 months. Again, that was the starting point. As you guys could see here, the original goal stated. And then what ended up happening is we exceeded expectations from his original goal of 155. We hit 150, and then we actually broke 150, which is a surreal feeling, topping off 22 pounds. And again, the way we went about the training and nutrition was that we broke it down to 3 phases to, accelerate the growth. Phase 1, essentially phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 was made up of the first 4 weeks, which was the fat loss kickstarter and foundation. We have phase 2, which is weeks 5 through 8, which is increasing the fat burn and the muscle definition expansion. And then week 3 was the fat loss finalization and muscle hypertrophy. So a lot of people are going to be like, how, muscle hypertrophy, how are we supposed to get stronger when we're losing all this weight? Yes, there's different ways you can go about it, and we used, maybe some different principles of like time under tension, mind muscle connection tactics, like to really make sure that he was getting stronger in the process. But like, there's different ways, because obviously when you lose, all this weight, it's very hard to essentially lift heavier weight because you're, in a decrease of calories. You're not going to be able to essentially push as much because your energy is going to be a little depleted. So we use different frameworks to go about that, which is I'm essentially going to break down later, but kind of want to touch on that a little bit. And then the last part, nutrition essentials. So again, we relied on a high protein diet, moderate carbs, and a high volume food base. So maybe, more fruits, veggies, Greek yogurt, shakes, whatever Brian wanted, that I'm essentially going to break down a little more detail. But again, the most important thing about this is tailored specifically towards his favorite foods and lifestyles. And these frameworks enable this kind of growth because it's essentially stuff he likes. So that's what's really important for Brian, and that's what really helped him, using foods that he liked, that was sustainable, that he could hit continuously every single day. So that was the program alignment. And then again, I just want to kind of touch on, where is it? The benchmarks. Yeah, so right here, this is the second part, which we touched on earlier, but I want to go into a little more detail, which is the benchmarks and milestones. So guys, a lot of people underestimate this, is that the periodization blueprint is really good because when you have an overarching goal, maybe you want to lose 15, 20 pounds, put on 5 pounds of muscle, whatever it is, you need to have small momentum builders and small ways to like celebrate these wins, because if you don't, it's going to kill you internally. It's a long journey, it's hard, it's tough, and essentially like when you have to go through days where you just don't see progress, it's going to take a toll on you mentally. And that's why having these benchmarks and having these bi-weekly calls really enables you to get that, that confidence booster to move forward and to really go, with it along the journey. Because if you're essentially by yourself, it's hard to essentially go through those times like you just don't know if you're doing the right stuff, you don't have another point of view, you don't have another set of eyes about your journey. And that's why like I essentially, reflect on my journey, wasted the first 3 years of my life because I'm on an 8-year journey. And the last 5 years I really understand was that I didn't know what I was doing was right or wrong. I didn't know essentially have any feedback. I didn't essentially know like if I was doing my training nutrition right to complement towards my goal. None of this stuff because I have frameworks in place. So it's so important to make sure you have accountability checks. You know what you're doing. You're in a program, vertical goal alignment, all this different stuff. And again, guys, the program adjustments, you need to pivot in certain times where stuff isn't working. That's extremely crucial when you work with someone, because if you're not pivoting, you're smashing the inputs that are not leading you anywhere. And as a byproduct of that, you're just wasting all your time. So for example, like if you're in a progress plateau and you're essentially just doing the same exercise over and over and over again, and you're not getting the ability to get stronger or overcome that weight, and you're going to have to pivot. And maybe a pivot is essentially you're training a variation of, the same exercise, but a different way. So for example, instead of doing a bench press, you're going to use dumbbells or a Smith machine press. If that doesn't work, maybe what you're going to do is switch up the foundation of your workouts. You're going to change certain exercises to, confuse the muscle to then stimulate new growth. All these different stuff, but it's hard to know this stuff if you're not, again, learning about the process and how it's best for you. So that's the program periodization blueprint. And then we touched on this, which is the milestone goals. Again, you have your overarching goal, month 1, month 2, month 3, and then obviously the 15 pounds. But Brian exceeded it by 7, so we were actually able to hit the 22 mark, which is again a surreal feeling. And the whole point of this, as you guys could see, is that your goals should be broken up into obviously little benchmark goals, but having the ability to actually execute it in the long term. Because if you're not going to be able to execute it, then essentially the whole thing's a waste of time. And if you're not getting the results, then I think it makes the process even harder to go back and retry, the same goal or the same process again, because you just know you have failure in the back of your head. And as you guys could see here, just looking at the visuals, that it was a surreal feeling. But again, you just want to build on your process and your momentum. Again, achieving this is really awesome, but you just want to keep on pushing yourself to the next step. And that's exactly what Brian did, and to not only just lose the 22, but to make sure that he was able to build the muscle definition as well. So that was essentially the first two parts, was the program periodization, the benchmark milestones, and now the last part is the accountability checks, which I kind of want to go into a little more detail, and that's why I kind of put it here again, is that, it's so important to make sure that the whole point of doing a program is essentially make sure that you're going to get to your goal. And if you're not going to get to your goal, again, it's a waste of time. But if you have the right frameworks to hold yourself accountable, then it's really hard for you to lose unless your variables in place are just consistency and your work ethic sucks. So besides that, you should rely on the right information. And these 3 things that we just talked about give you the ability to have the right information every single step of the way. The voice notes give you stuff that you need to hear in regard to small adjustments. So maybe your protein intake was slacking, maybe your daily step count was slacking, and your nutrition, you get to hear that in the morning right when you wake up to essentially know that you need these changes to win. The weekly check-in form, again, that's weekly. So you get to know like, all right, maybe a certain process isn't working. So maybe you try working in the mornings and it's just not working for you. Maybe we switch it to later in the days and you have a better appetite and a pre-workout meal to make you sure that you can get a better workout. Whatever it is, that's how we could try different stuff. That's just an example, top of mind. And then bi-weekly, again, just being on a call one-on-one, it really allows you to see that you could talk through your problems and understand that there's more ways to go about the same problem. So again, stagnant growth, there's multiple ways to address it. But again, if you only think that you have like the ability to try this way and it's not working for you, then it's not going to give you the ability to win. You need different frameworks, different, angles to see stuff as, and it really helps you get the confidence booster to move forward. And as you can see, like, I just put this text, over here, is that like these Zoom calls really enabled Brian to build so much of the momentum because it gave him the ability and confidence to move forward. Because, you do go through times where you're not seeing results, it's stagnant. But if you have to, essentially rely on these, it's really hard to, not essentially quit, but like to get the momentum you need to overcome it. So that was the first part, as we just broke down in detail, the foundational framework. So this is how we went about Brian's program and just making sure the framework was tailored specifically towards his lifestyle. Now I want to break down the nuances of how we're actually able to get him these results. So this is kind of like the meat and butter of everything. As you can see, I break everything down, crucial detail. So if you guys want to, again, screenshot this, take notes, pause it, whatever's best for you. But this breaks down everything and how we were able to do it. And it really took him to new levels of everything. So progressive overload training. So this kind of breaks down how Brian was able to not only lose the weight, but to get stronger simultaneously. And if you guys are not too familiar, apologies, with progressive overload, again, it's the ability to build continuous muscle over time. And there's certain rep ranges you guys have to do to make sure this works, really well. So we have our compound lifts and isolation lifts. Our compound lifts are the ability to, again, hit multiple muscle groups simultaneously, but you have to make sure you're working in certain rep ranges, as you guys can see. I'm kind of break this down in detail, but for your compound, basically lifts, these are, if you guys are not too familiar with it, is your bench press, your overhead shoulder press, maybe a barbell squat, or a barbell row. Stuff like this that gives you, again, the ability to hit multiple muscle groups. And then you have your isolation lifts, which hit a subgroup of the muscle group. So for example, say your compound lift is a shoulder press, and then your shoulders broken down to 3 core, groups. You have your front, your side, and your rear, and you want to do front dumbbells. That hits the front part of your shoulder. And this is a rep range you're going to operate around 12 reps and then 9. Well, obviously you guys see it, but again, what you have to do is if you hit these reps at the end consistently, so say, for your bench press, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9 consistently, what you're going to do is increase the weight. Reps are going to decrease, and you're going to rinse and repeat over time to get to that number. That's going to allow you to get stronger. And that's how you do it for the isolation lifts as well. You could do anywhere 10 to 12. I just put the, the standard ranges over here, but don't do 15 for every single one. That's not how you do it. You do it in these rep ranges that then enable you to increase the amount of muscles that you're going to hit per week, which is then again going to flow into training frequency, which I'm going to break down right now. But again, the whole point of progressive overload is to build muscle continuously over time, and that rep ranges allow you to do that. We're then going to talk about how your training frequency and your training splits align with this and how it's best for you. As you guys can see, I'm going to break this down in more detail, but always like to give you like a little overview. But the whole goal of this progressive overload is like the underlying principle is you want to increase the amount of muscles you hit more times per week. So again, if you're doing like maybe a basic split where it's like a chest day, a back day, a tricep day, a bicep day, it's really hard for you to increase the amount of times you hit each muscle group because you're only hitting one time per week. But if you incorporate, more compound lifts, the right training splits, and the right training frequencies, you're going to enable you to hit these muscles 3 to 5 times per week, which is then going to stimulate faster growth, which is then going to allow you to get stronger quicker instead of just doing like a back day, a bicep day. So I hope that makes sense. That's just, I'm again going to go into more detail, but your whole goal should be to build muscle continuously over time, which is progressive overload, increase the amount of times you hit each muscle per week, and this kind of flows into our training split and the training frequency, which and then I'm going to break down right here. But actually, I could just do it right now because I think it would be easier. So the whole point of your training frequency, as I mentioned, is the ability to increase the amount of times you hit each muscle group per week. Because essentially, if you have more compound lifts per week, you're going to increase the amount of times you hit each muscle group. So for example, if you think a chest press only hits your chest, that's wrong. It hits your chest, your shoulders, your abs, and your triceps. The more compound lifts you could do, which you generally start in the beginning of your workouts because you have the most energy, then you're going to have the ability to essentially hit more muscle groups. And then what we're essentially going to do is align this with our training split, training structure. I'm going to go a little out of order because this is just going to make sure it flows the right way, and then I'll touch on these. But you essentially what you're going to do is align it with their training structure. And your training structure is really important based on aligning your training split with the number of days you go per week. So again, guys, if you go 3 days, a full body split, 4 upper and lower, 5 or 6, maybe an Arnold or push-pull legs. For Brian specifically, what we did was we did a 4-day split. So we used an upper and lower body split. And then he had one hit day that he liked to do. So maybe it was extra cardio, or for Brian, towards the end, it was skiing season for him. And that was best for his lifestyle. And again, it worked out really well because, again, it allowed him to flow into hitting his daily steps, as you guys could see. I'm going to get right back to, but really good way that Brian was able to do this. And what this really allowed Brian to do was basically allow him to stay consistent on each and every single day. Because if you have a training split that's morphed essentially to your lifestyle, it's going to give you the ability to stay consistent. And consistency and sustainability is the most important thing, because if you could do that, it's going to give yourself the ability to win long term. And again, it's operationalized days to be more active in his lifestyle. So again, once you do this stuff, once you build it as part of your identity, it gives you the frameworks you need to kind of hit every single day benchmarks, so which enables growth. So again, we just talked about a lot right there. We talked about progressive overload, the structure you guys are going to use. Then we talked about the training frequency and how it flows into hitting more muscles per week. Then we talked about the training split that you guys can use, which is aligned with the number of days. So that is a lot of information. I hope I tried to break it down really simple and have it flow the right way. And then I'm kind of going to touch off with compound lifts and just give you a little more information in regards to and why it's so important. So again, guys, compound lifts, as I mentioned earlier, is the ability to hit multiple muscle groups simultaneously, which then increases the amount of times you hit each muscle group per week, and then allows these workouts. So again, the little detail that I could touch on again is that you always want to start your workouts with your compound lifts and end with your isolation lifts. And the reason this is so important is because in the beginning of your workout, you have the most energy, and essentially you have the most ability to hit more muscle groups in the beginning. Like I said, if you're going through progress plateaus, that's fine. You could switch it up, but generally speaking, you want to start with your compound lifts because again, your energy expenditure is the highest and allows you to literally do everything you can to not only build more muscle, but essentially be your best self in the beginning of the workout. And then towards the end, generally speaking, a lot of people end with the isolation lifts, which is a subgroup of that muscle group. But a little pointer is, again, if you go for 3 days, these, generally speaking, are going to be made up more of your compound lifts of all your exercises. And then, of course, as you go to lists, you're going to be, generally speaking, have maybe 1, 2, or 3 compound lifts, and the rest are isolation. The reason you're going to have more compound lifts, again, because you're going less days per week, you need to hit that 3 to 5 muscle group range. So again, you're going to have to take out certain things unless you're going to be there for 4 hours, which kind of defeats the purpose of a lot of stuff. So that's just a little pointer. But obviously, the more days you go, the more times you can hit different exercises, the more muscle groups you essentially could have or essentially do and hit. So I hope that point was a little clear. Again, it's best off what's best for you and your lifestyle. Once you do it that way, it kind of enables sustainability. So we talked about A, B, and C, and then we talked about training frequency. And another good thing that we did with Brian was your step count. And a lot of people think that your step count is kind of useless, but the really cool thing with your step count is essentially what happens is it's at a low intensity exercise, so it really doesn't take away from your lifts. What a lot of people do wrong with losing all this weight, and essentially, is that they do too much cardio, but they do too much high intensity cardio. When you do too much high intensity cardio, it takes away from your strength training because you're exerting all your energy. Counterintuitively, if you do a low intensity exercise, it really doesn't take away from your lifts because essentially it's not that much stress on your body. When you're walking, it's not that big of a deal. And for Brian, we aimed anywhere from 10 to 15k steps, and as you guys could see on his dashboard, these were one of his habits. Hit 10k steps. So that's why we used that as a habit to build momentum builders to hit the benchmark goal, which then was in the same vertical of his long-term goal. Let me just head back. Too much information over here. So that's why it was really important for Brian to essentially make sure that, or essentially burn off more weight every single week. And your step count's really important because essentially what can happen is you could lose an extra 1 to 2 pounds just from your steps alone, on top of your strength training and your nutrition framework. So again, the reason Brian was able to lose all this weight and build muscle was because he was relying on a tailored nutrition plan that was specifically towards him. He had a training plan that he enjoyed, and his step count was basically extra stuff on top. And those three frameworks working simultaneously in congruence of his goal gives you the ability to hit unbelievable results and benchmarks, and that's what exactly happened. So we talked about all this, and then as everything always ties into lifestyle personalization, you have to tailor towards your work and interest schedule. And the biggest thing with fitness is that people think that you have to eat the same meals, you have to do the same thing, when that doesn't have to be the case. And when you get tailored towards sustainability and long term, that's best for him, because Brian essentially, like, working out later in the day was maybe best for him but may not be best for you. It doesn't matter as long as you check the box. And once you do this tailored specifically towards your work and interest schedule, that is going to essentially make sure you win all the time and you enjoy the process, because if you don't enjoy the process, you're not going to stick with it. And that's like the only variable at play. Like, you have to enjoy it. And that's exactly why we were able to do this so successfully, is because it helped him and he enjoyed the process of just showing up every single day. So now let's talk about nutrition. So again, this is probably the other most important part of the video, which is breaking down how we were able to go about his nutrition plan and why it works so well. So again, for any fat loss, your protein intake should be high. Generally speaking, you should aim at least your body weight. So maybe if you weigh 175 pounds, you're eating 175 grams of protein. For Brian, we kept it around 1.1, so it was a little higher as body weight, and we use lean protein sources. So for Brian, we did chicken breasts, Greek yogurt, eggs, and egg whites. And the most important thing about this was that when we talked about high volume foods, as I mentioned earlier, when you're you're essentially trying to lose weight, you want to resort to higher volume foods, because essentially it's more food, less calories, and allows you to be full longer. And essentially, chicken breast is a really good option. Greek yogurt is an absolute staple because the macros are great. And then eggs and egg whites, especially egg whites, because you get a lot of food for not that many calories and high in protein. So again, when you're trying to lose all this weight, use higher volume foods like fruits and veggies, Greek yogurts, because essentially you're going to be able to eat a lot more, feel full quicker, and essentially lose this weight because you're in a calorie deficit. So that was in regards to his protein, and it's so important to make sure your protein's at least hitting your body weight consistently. And if you want to increase your protein intake, that's fine. Just try to do it for consistent, maybe 1 to 2 weeks, and then increase it after that. If you try to do it all at once, it's not going to be sustainable. First fats, we kept around 40%, and with some options we use is like butter, nuts, and avocado. The only thing with your fats in this is that you have to make sure that your fats are 2 exacalories of your proteins and your carbs. So if you go too high over your your macros count for your fats, you're essentially going to just gain the weight because it's so calorie dense. So be really careful of that, and that's what we had to make sure with Brian, that his portion sizes were right, unless everything's essentially going to just crumble down, because he's going to be so many calories over his maintenance, and essentially it's just a waste of time. And then your carbs, guys, these are essentially what we backfill at the rest of the remaining calories. So for Brian, as I mentioned, we use complex carbs, so white rice, sweet potatoes, 100% whole wheat bread, and then as you could see, this kind of ties into the more high volume foods, because the greater amount of fruits and veggies to the sides of your meal. So we have his complex carbs right here, but what we also did was made sure that we relied on stuff that he generally enjoyed, which is the fruits and veggies. I know I touched on this right here, but like, your carbs are such an important piece of your play, because if you essentially like do the standard approach, with a lot of people just cut out their carbs when trying to lose all this weight, but the problem with that is your energy levels get depleted because your carbs are like the main source of your energy, and second of all, it's just not sustainable. Like that, those two things are why most people fail, and then overdoing cardio, which is what I explained on before, which really doesn't work because you're essentially just going to burn yourself out. But the reason why your fruits and veggies are so important is because it's such a large amount of food for not that many calories that's going to suppress your appetite. So between all three of these things that we did here, in regards to his macros, this gave him the ability to win, because again, it was all specifically towards his goal. And what's really cool about this is like, as I mentioned in the client check-in form, this is the food preference form, but actually let me just pull into the client check-in form. So as you can see, the client check-in form, there's a question on it that says like, how is your nutrition? Are there any changes you want? And maybe for Brian, he didn't want any more Greek yogurt. We then swapped that out to maybe steak or ground beef, whatever it was. And that was the same macro count. And we just swapped it based off what he wanted best. And that's why, that's how you not get essentially burnout or you just don't like the food you eat, because to always customize it weekly toward your goals. And that's why working one-on-one is the best way to do it, because you, again, get a quick fix to a quick solution and to enable new momentum, new results. And it's like a kickstart to, starting the process again. So we talked about that, which was the macros, routing those complex carbs. And the last part was the water intake. So water intake is extremely important because, again, you need to drink enough water throughout the day because it's going to make you think right and all this different stuff, but it also helps suppress your appetite a little bit. I wouldn't rely on this, but I just think it's really, you need to be drinking your water, because if you're not drinking your water, you're just essentially not giving yourself to think the right way throughout the day. And I can go on and on about drinking water. It's pretty standard. Drinking water really helps with fat loss, but it's just, mentally and physically, you just need to do it because it gives your body the right essentials to be your best self every single day. So I want to go into too much detail. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but it was a foundational framework we used that really helped suppress his appetite and to make sure that he was feeling full longer, and it allowed him to essentially hit this goal, which is losing all this weight. And then I just threw this in here. I generally enjoy drinking coffee. It helps suppress your appetite a little bit. Just do it what's best for you. But coffee is only an additional way to do it, because again, it's going to suppress your appetite. And maybe you want to intermittent fast, you want to drink more coffee. It's not going to allow you to eat as much, and then maybe put you in a calorie deficit a little easier. We didn't do that for Brian, but I just want to throw that in for you guys. And as I mentioned, we adjust these weekly. So, that's why when we start, your whole meal plan is based off your preference. So again, you get this form as soon as you're onboarded. And once you do that, it has it broken down to your 3 favorite meals for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, food you hate, food you want more of. Obviously no McDonald's or Taco Bell, Burger King, you can't do that stuff. And then I make the plan based off that, and then we adjust it as we go once we, go through stuff that you want changed specifically on the week-to-week basis. And again, guys, it allows you just to enjoy it, to keep it simple. It makes it fun. It makes it a great experience. And I don't know for you guys, but for me, like, I get a quick dopamine hit once I enjoy the foods I eat. So going back to this, we have the last part of this, which is the training, nutrition, and then the habits and goals. And this is extremely important because when you look at this, that you have your dashboard, and when you look at this on your phone every single day, it's in one place, you know exactly what to do. And that's what's really cool about this, is when you have 3 or 4 things like all over your phone, like you're taking pictures, you're writing down, on pencil and paper and Excel sheet. It's not enjoyable. It's not fun. I've tried it. And again, having the ability to have it all through your phone on an app and have it in a literally step-by-step playbook and then log out and just not think about it again is the best way to win. And then for, again, how it is you have your training based off your training split. So maybe you're doing a 6-day split, a 5-day split, a 4 or 3. It's basically automated to your calendar, as you guys see right here. You have his dashboard, he has his account, and then your meal is basically on a PDF. You have your meal plan, so you know exactly what to eat, and then it kind of syncs up here so I can get the analysis basically of your macros and the calorie count, and then your daily habits, and then you work towards your goals and habits, which breaks down periodization technique. As I mentioned earlier, we have different phases of the training, different phases in regards to your macros and your calories. So everything is very systematized. We do it and it allows you to win, and it really keeps it very streamlined and straightforward on your end, which is the most important part. And then again, you guys know the benefit of the daily habits, but I just kind of want to break it down to a little more detail. Is every single day you need momentum builders and small wins, and these allow you to be in the same vertical of your benchmarks and vertical goal, because again, hitting your step count is going to help you get to that dream number, which is losing that weight. High protein breakfast is going to give you the ability to hit your macro goal for the day. It's in the same vertical. And then hitting the water intake is something you have to do continuously to build long term to get to that. So seeing these every single day in your dashboard and to check it off, and it's very evident if you don't do it, because it would just be blank. It will be blank on your dashboard, and then the voice note essentially is going to tell you like, why didn't you do X, and that allows you to get the feedback loop right away. And then, guys, lastly, to sum everything up, is program acceleration. Again, the ability for Brian to lose 22 pounds, as you guys could see right here, is all comes down to the skill sets and knowledge you get when you're done with the program. Because once you gain these skill sets and knowledge acquired, for both the training and nutrition, you get stuff that's daily non-negotiables to hit. It becomes a part of your identity. It becomes a part of your lifestyle. And it's a new daily alignment towards living a healthy and productive life. And once you do this and you align it and you understand how you're able to get these results, because again, through the voice notes, through the weekly check-ins and the daily Zoom calls, it just becomes embedded into you. And it's really hard for you not to learn it because you're doing it every day. So it's nearly impossible. And that's what's really cool, because you just, again, live a lifestyle that is tailored specifically towards you. And that's why Brian was, again, able to really enjoy the process, because he just enjoyed what he did. He gained the skill sets and knowledge. It programmed him to get a new identity alignment, as you guys saw right here, was that, thank you again for everything. You truly made a difference in my life. But the expertise, the encouragement, the experience he had, and basically the support and getting the confidence he was able to do this, it just changed his life in, so many different ways. And that's the point of what 3 months could do. If you have the right information, all you do is show up. So like I said, 3 months could change everything for you. It just depends how bad you want it. And then again, just living a fitness and healthy lifestyle, and then look good, feel good. Again, you get higher energy levels, as you guys could see over here, was that, he saw a rise in his energy levels, just feeling pretty good every single day, because he lost all this weight and just building muscle. I mean, again, it's crazy to think that just smashing basic inputs every single day and just tailoring it towards your lifestyle can do so much for you. So again, guys, higher energy levels, physical attraction, self-confidence you get in yourself to deliver and to not quit. That's the biggest thing. When you could do something and not quit and actually get the results, it changes the whole way you think about things. And then the acceleration tactics, again, guys, losing 22 pounds is a sufficient amount of weight, but as you guys could see, the consistency, it's just consistent inputs, there's small wins every single day. And once you do that, you give yourself, the confidence that you could actually achieve the goals you set out for. And 3 months is a short period of time. If you guys look at it, 3 months, a lot of people don't lose 5 pounds in their life, or 10 or 15 or 22, forget about it. Even if they do, they gain all the weight back because they didn't gain the information or skill sets. Maybe they do, high cardio all the time. They deplete their carbs all the way. That's not how you do it, because you're going to essentially gain the weight back. If you learn the right skill sets and information, have a plan, literally systematized towards your lifestyle, you're just going to enable new results, new momentum on top of your foundation, which is, again, just losing all this weight. So, again, guys, this just, versatile skill set. You repeat the process again. This last point was the acceleration, gaining lifelong skill sets. Basically, you're going to use this skill over and over and over again, because you're going to know how to eat the right way. You're going to know how to train. You know how to make it part of your identity. And it's a process you're going to just repeat over and over again in the future to essentially buy back your time. Because you have to think about it like this. Once you pay your aggregate tax once, you then give yourself essentially the ability to do it again, but you don't have to waste your time learning the information because you already have it down. So again, guys, I know this video was a little long, but I hope this gave you everything you need. We broke down exactly how Brian was able to do this, everything he was able to do to lose these 22 pounds of, again, or shredding the fat and then building muscle simultaneously. And the results kind of speak for themselves just in 3 months of what hard work could do. I don't know why it's kind of happened, but just insane results to say the least. That transformation in that V-taper in the back. And again, there's the side picks. And guys, anyone can get these results. Brian's no different. He just showed up consistently and hit the right inputs. But it literally just comes down to the only variable should be your work ethic, discipline, and your consistency. Once you do those 3 things, then you give yourself the ability to win. And that should only be the only card at play on your behalf. If you don't want it that bad, then you don't deserve the results. But if you're willing to work and you have a good work ethic, then you most certainly should get it. So again, guys, take this information, run with it. I hope it helps. If you could do anything in the process to better your life, fitness is that epicenter of success, because it just funnels to other aspects of your life: personal development, mindset, nutrition, training, literally everything. So Again, let's actually make sure that you guys have everything you need, and I hope I answered all your questions. This gave you everything that I would have essentially wanted when I was starting out, if I had to lose all this weight, or how Brian was able to do it in as little as literally 3 months. So again, guys, get to work. I hope this gave you, the exact A to Z blueprint, because I try to break down everything in detail. I know the time's a little long on this, but it's really important that you guys took notes, you applied action, and you really take yourself to where you want to be, which is, again, losing this weight, shredding, all this fat, of course, building this muscle, but also realign it towards your new identity, which is a lifestyle that you want to live and it's sustainable. So again, guys, thank you for watching a killer video. I hope this gave you the exact missing piece you need to get there, and let's make sure we get to work.